Hello, everyone. Once again, welcome. I'm Rina Lang, co-founder of the coaching community. And today I have the pleasure of actually welcoming Arfa with us. We met a few weeks ago and we had a call with Arfa and we were quite impressed with her background. She's an 8-figure copywriter, among other things. And she has quite an interesting story to tell and to share about her own journey as a coach. And today she's here with us to talk to us about organic client acquisition online. And let's hear of it. And perhaps, Arfa, you could start off by telling us what kind of coach you are and what got you started on this coaching journey.
Hey everyone, it's a real pleasure to be here. So as Rina said, I'm basically an 8-figure direct response copywriter, and I'm actually a marketing consultant and coach. So my sort of primary area of expertise is really in helping coaches, consultants, or the experts get their message out in a very impactful way and to scale their business using systems. That's kind of like where I specialize. But we do have a lot of clients that work with us as well that are kind of like starting out, and actually the thing is they're not really ready for scale. So essentially what we do with those clients is we get them clients organically, and we have processes and we have like trainings and whatnot that we actually give them. So that's essentially what we do in a nutshell. I actually consult with a lot of very well-known brands as well. So some very prominent, like Marissa Peer is one of my clients, and I work with their marketing team. I've had other like very notable people that I work with as well. And I'm always like kind of like almost the person behind the brand, if that makes sense. So a lot of these like big name entrepreneurs, larger sort of expert influencers that you see, there will be somebody like myself that's almost behind the scenes of those businesses. And really our job is to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to help that business grow through acquisition of amazing clients. And we do that through a number of different ways. So specifically with myself, it will be things like writing amazing sales campaigns. Last client that I just worked with, I wrote their entire webinar funnel from start to finish. Basically writing all of the copy, the emails, the sales pages, putting the strategy together, working with clients to show them how to effectively scale, and essentially like showing them where the gaps are in their marketing so that they know how to move forward in a very powerful way. And that's basically what I do in a nutshell.
Thank you for sharing. The reason why in the beginning I'm always kind of like all over the place because I'm making sure that we are live on Facebook. That's why I'm connecting them.
That's all right.
Everything's going. That's why I'm like, okay, wait. Thank you for sharing. That's quite an impressive background, and you've done quite a bit. And for us aspiring coaches, that's definitely something to get inspired by. So, and I know you've tried quite a bit over the years. And why organic search? We get bombarded with so many messages and paid ads and paid this and funnels and all that.
Yeah.
And to me, after hearing from someone who has quite a bit of experience, that's basically going back to basics. And what motivated you, or what insights have you gathered on your journey that actually led you to this conclusion?
Oh, I love that question. I think it's such a fabulous question. And I think most of you here will probably be able to relate when I say that when the pandemic hit, my business was very badly affected. I practically lost like 5 clients overnight. And for a small business owner, that can become financially very crippling. And essentially, I mean, I'm a single parent as well, and I have 2 children at home. And for me, the biggest thing that was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? Because they don't need my help anymore. I mean, they were putting their staff on furlough, and the first thing that they stopped was any marketing spend. We're not allowed to open, we're not allowed to run, therefore we don't need we don't need that help. And so this created a problem, but also a massive opportunity for me. Now, I've always been a massive fan of organic. And when I'm talking about organic, specifically for me and my business, I have about an 80% referral rate, which is extraordinarily high. So most people who I work with will not only work with me for several years. My longest standing client has literally been with me for almost 10 years now. But also what they'll do is they'll go and tell you know, other entrepreneurs and other business owners about me and my services, and they'll make introductions. So word of mouth and referrals, very, very powerful. And what I found personally is that works insanely well, especially when you have literally got no budget to start with, right? It's one of the most powerful forms of marketing. Also, you're more likely to trust somebody who will basically, you know, someone says to you, imagine your best friend says to you, I work with so-and-so and they got me incredible results, and I think you should go definitely check them out. Guess what? The level of trust is sky high. And actually, the beauty of that is that people who are referred, they tend to stay with you longer. They have a shorter buying cycle. In other words, it doesn't take as long to get them to become clients, and they love you like anything, and then they'll refer you on to others as well. So it's a win-win all around. So that was one of the strategies. But the problem is that when the pandemic hit, I completely ran out of referrals. I completely dried up with referrals. So what I did was I turned my attention to the thing that I've been doing anyway, but the thing that I wanted to do more than anything was just to basically get my message out there without having to put a ton of money behind ad spend. Because let's be honest, especially when you're starting out, you don't necessarily have the budget to do you know, like a full-blown campaign. And I'm going to be and I'm going to dispel a myth now. Me as a marketer, I've seen a lot. I've literally seen everything that you can throw at marketing. I've seen it. And most of the promotions that you will see online, I've written one kind of that promotion or the other. Doesn't matter whether it's product launch formula, doesn't matter whether it's, you know, like a video sales letter or a webinar or whatever that looks like. I've pretty much written every single type of promotion you can even consider, and things that you probably might not have considered. The thing that I have noticed is that people get caught up in that, oh, I must do this because this expert is doing that. When actually, when you're starting out, you need a bit more of a grassroots approach. You actually don't need to do anything complicated. You don't need to do anything techy. You don't need to do anything that involves using any money, because guess what? Your Facebook profile is probably one of the best sources of getting incredible clients. Full stop, right? If you are not at the stage where you're making 6 figures or very close to that amount, you shouldn't even be thinking about paid traffic. Like it's a complete myth that you have to be looking at that in order to get clients. That's absolutely not true. And even my own business, me being an extraordinarily experienced marketer, I mean, I've been doing this since 2010. And like I said, I've worked with some of the best in the business, and I'm going to be completely honest in the sense that, like, literally all you need is your Facebook profile. And that's exactly what I did. So when the pandemic hit, I turned to really doubling down on my Facebook profile. And I also started a Facebook group. And what I did inside of that group was I literally loaded it and bombarded it with incredible information. And that resulted in me having Q3 for me last year was a record-breaking quarter. I made more profit in Q3, more revenue and more profit in Q3 last year than I did in the whole of 2016 combined, right? So it's insanely profitable. And the brilliant thing is there's literally no expenses involved, okay? Because it's just you, it's just your content, it's just literally you getting in there, delivering the best that you can do, giving people advice, helping people out, and people are naturally drawn to that. They like the fact that that's, you know, that you're trying to help them, and guess what, they're going to become clients as well. So that's what my sort of big thing is. And I'm not a fan of, you know, doing things in a haphazard way. I definitely do not like for anyone to have to go through, oh, I'm going to try a bit of this, try a bit of that, try a bit of this. You don't need to. Literally the only thing, and I think pretty much all of you, unless, again, like I said, unless you're at 6 figures, all of you here really should only be really focusing on the one thing to pull your business in, and that is using either Facebook or whether it's Instagram. Some of you might be on LinkedIn, wherever that looks like for you. I personally get literally all of my clients come from Facebook. I have tried LinkedIn. It is pretty good, but again, it's going to depend on what niche you are in. And that's essentially, that's what I recommend. And anyone can do it. I mean, last year, I surpassed the six-figure mark, just purely organically. So it just shows you, and even now, like I'm past that six-figure mark, even now I'm still not running paid traffic because I actually don't need to. And there's lots of other things as well that I'll get into a little bit later on. But essentially what you really want to be focusing on is how can I be of service? How can I add value? How can I create impact and do it in a way that is natural, that is organic, where I'm going to be attracting my ideal client. And actually, it's very easy to do because you're just showing up every single day, you're sharing your knowledge, you're being generous with your knowledge, and then that's it. Right? It's like, that's how you start enrolling people into conversations. So yeah, so that's basically what my sort of ethos and my belief is. And yeah, anyone who tells you, trust me, I know I've worked with some of the best in the marketing world, right? You do not need to put paid traffic behind anything until you are literally at that six-figure mark and you're ready to scale.
Excellent. I think this is something we've heard from other speakers as well, and I wholeheartedly agree as well. And I just had a look at your Facebook group, and you only have about 459 members. So it really shows that you don't need 3,000 people. You actually need 459 that invest. And it's
they've
more
got to
than
be your ideal clients, definitely, 100%. I mean, I've got there are 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs inside of my group. So the quality, and this is something that I would really definitely recommend that you think about. Who is your ideal client? And how can I get more of my ideal clients and attract them into my world? And the quality of your content and the way that you're positioning your content. I mean, I've got no qualms whatsoever. Like I will put, when I write posts and I'm inviting people to basically book calls with me, I make it very clear who my work is for and who it's not for. I always say, this is not for startups. You got to be at least 6 figures if you want to start working with me. That's kind of like my caveat. And you've got to have a proven offer, right? And they're the people who, for me, are my ideal clients. So that means that my group in and of itself, it's a very small group, but it's so powerfully, it's so powerful because it is literally loaded with my ideal clients. And these are people who've got a lot of money. So there's multi-7, multi-8, multi-6, even I've got someone in there who's doing 9 figures. So it just goes to show that, you know, if you have the right quality clients, less is definitely more.
Excellent. So I guess the next question that begs asking is really, how did you find them on Facebook? I mean, on LinkedIn, it's easy to see CEO, founder and such, but on Facebook, it's much more private and you cannot really see professional titles of people. So how did you go about really attracting your ideal clients, and where did you find them?
Yeah, so this is a great question, actually. And I think for everyone, you know, whoever your ideal client is, what I want you to start thinking about is, who are the influencers that influence or impact your ideal client? Go and find them on Facebook and go and have a look at their friends list, and it will be loaded with their ideal clients who will be your ideal clients, and just go and add them as friends. You want to be adding around 20 a day. Try not to go over that, because you know you don't want to get into Facebook book jail. I've been in Facebook jail about 3 times now, and the last time I was in Facebook jail, which was last year, 30 days I was unable to send anyone a message, that was really, really, really tough. I was like, I need to talk to people and I can't talk to them. So just be careful of that. So what you want to do is, there's a couple of things that you can do. So number one is to go find these influencers, go look at their friends list and start adding those people as your friends. Second thing that you can do is make sure, and this is part and parcel of that, if you're doing that consistently, so you want to be adding 20 a day, you also want to be engaging with people. And what I do is I literally put a timer on my phone, 2 minutes, that's it. That's all it takes. Just scroll through your Facebook newsfeed, and you just want to be commenting and engaging on people's posts. You don't want to appear as if you are a spammer. That's really important. Facebook needs to see that you are a real person who is after making real connections and is interested in those connections. So if you come across as being authentic, remember, I know it's just a platform, but platforms have their own rules as well. What you don't want is, you don't want to like suddenly find that you can't message anyone, you can't add anyone, because that's it, you know, you got a Facebook slap. Second thing that you can do as well is you can go to Facebook groups where you know your ideal client hangs out. right? So let's say you are going after corporate professional women. There will be groups on Facebook, and actually Facebook in itself, and a lot of people don't know this, in the search bar, if you type in corporate professional women, and it'll bring up a whole load of search results. What you can do is you can do one of two things. You can have a look at the groups, and that's actually where I recommend that you start, but you can also have a look at people as well. And the people will bring up some interesting people, like, you know, people who've got like lots of followers and stuff like that. That can actually really, really help you, because you can have a look at their followers and start adding them as friends. But what I would really focus on is go and have a look at the groups, and you want to get the groups that have got not so much, it's what you're looking for is not so much a massive following, but you're looking at lots of engagement. That's more important than the following itself. I've seen groups that have got like 3,000-4,000 people in that, and it's as dead as a doornail. So you've got to be mindful of which type of groups that you pick. But go into those groups and start posting really high level content. Now read the group rules very carefully, because most groups will tell you you're not allowed to do any kind of self promotion. So just be careful. But what you can do is, like, let's say you've got an amazing strategy that helps to resolve a certain something. You can write about that, put it in the group. That's like a massive value add. And you can share that into other groups as well. And anyone who comments or engages with your post, go and add them as a friend. So what you're doing is you're almost building up your own profile as, you know, being filled with your ideal clients. That's what you're doing. But on top of that, it has the double whammy that because you've got groups in common, they're more likely to trust you. And because they've seen you posting in the groups, when you start posting on your own private profile, you can do whatever you want on your private profile. It's your private profile. Now, you can't basically pitch in most people's groups will not allow you to pitch. But what you can do is you can start pitching on your own profile. And as long as, you know, the caveat being that you are actually engaging with those people as well, you will start showing in their newsfeed, right? And the types of content that you can create, people love insight, okay? Insight is not the same as giving the answers. Answers is, you know, where you're actually giving someone the actual answer, but insight is where you give someone an aha moment, right? It's where you give people clarity in helping them to understand their situation, because sometimes, and I'm sure most of you will relate to this. Have you ever read something and that you read it, and at the end of it, you're like, oh my God, that sounds like me, or now I understand why this happened to me. Excuse me. So basically what you're doing there is, that's what you call insight, right? And this is the power of self-discovery. If you write posts that allow people to find clarity, that clarity is going to empower them to want to take that next step with you. So like, wow, I didn't know that. Right. I did this post once on my wall. This is quite a while ago now. I did this post on my wall, and it was all about the negative avatar. And somebody posted underneath it, oh my God, this was amazing. This was so helpful. And then they private messaged me. There was no call to action on this post, by the way. I was not asking anyone to do anything. It was pure insight. This person went and sent me a message and said, oh my God, I need to speak to you. I've been in business for 10 years. I've only ever focused on my ideal client. I've never ever looked at my negative avatar. What does that look like? And now I know what the problem is in my business. And oh my God, you've just given me a massive amount of clarity. Can I book a call with you? And that was amazing, right? So you've got to think about what kind of value can I add that's going to get people thinking about their problem in a completely different way, right? And that in itself, like I said, is going to end up leading to conversations that eventually turn into clients. So that's some of the sort of top line strategies that I would say is 110% worth you doing, and doing that consistently. I promise you will enroll clients very powerfully. Second type of content, aside from the insight types of content, is content where what you're doing is you're telling people, you're outlining an actual, a process, or you're giving people an understanding of how you work, and you're giving people a look at maybe testimonials, or you're doing something like, here's a case study, right? I did this on my wall a few weeks ago, where we were helping, also one of our clients is getting the most insane results with Facebook ads right now. And I basically wrote about that as almost like a case study post. I gave an understanding. So I was basically explaining the process. What does that look like? What does scale look like? I gave them the top line figures. And I basically said, if you want help with implementing this in your own business, drop me the word scaling in the comments below, and I'm going to reach out to you. And I had about 4 people book a call with me, including one very big company that had been watching what I've been doing for a while. And they reached out to me, booked a call with me, and they're now in the process. It's actually a large charity, believe it or not. I mean, I predominantly work with coaches and consultants, but they are non-profit and they are a charity. And now they're in talks with their senior management about getting me in to run all of their, basically all of their funnels, all of their campaigns from scratch. That project alone, if it does go through, would end up probably being a 6-figure project for me, because it's massive what they're looking for. So it just goes to show that even something as simple as, helping people to understand what your process is, helping people to understand what kind of results you get, and then sharing those types of results, you just don't know who's watching your newsfeed. You really don't. And that person, by the way, they went and booked a call with me, but they never once dropped the word scaling in my comments. They literally just directly reached out to me and said, I've seen what you're doing, can we book a call? I was like, yeah, let's book a call. And we took the conversation from there. So yeah, lots to think about, but high level content, and then making those calls to action. And actually, if you share incredible content, you can have a call to action in every single post that you do. It could be something as simple as, if you need help implementing anything that I've just talked about in this post, drop me a comment below and I'll reach out to you. And then all you do is you just reach out to them in Messenger, and you just start the conversation from there.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I know we have a question about Facebook jail, and actually I want to add on another question to this, but let's ask this. So you said you don't add more than 20 people to your list. Yep. Yeah. So you said you were in jail 3 times. So what were the other mistakes you made?
It was always the same thing. Honestly, it was always the same thing. So I had a VA working for me, and I basically, so when we started this process, I was adding 50 people a day. That's quite a lot of people. And after about a week, I was like, why can't I add any more people? And then I got told that I was in jail for 3 days. So 3 days I wasn't able to basically send anyone a message or anything like that. And I was like, okay, right, we'll try and be a bit more careful. Anyway, so then I was like, okay, so I told my VA, just drop it down to about 40 people a day. And then so we did it again, and then I got slapped again. This time, first time it was like 3 days. Second time, I think it was like, a week or 10 days, something like that. May even possibly have been 2 weeks. I can't remember now. So then I was like, okay, reduce it again. Let's go down to 30, just to be on the safe side. And then I got slapped again, but this time I got slapped for an entire month. So, and then I couldn't send anyone a message. Something
similar happening to me, but it was for adding people to my group. So I also, I think I was adding like 100 people to the group, and then I was blocked for 1 week from adding people to the group. Yeah. And now I stick to about 25 people. So I add maximum 25 people to the group, and I never had issues again. So for those of you see how when you use your social media profile and you befriend everybody. So of course, the next step is for you to start adding those people as well to your group to grow. And whoever joins your group, they're already interested in what you're doing, and they already identify themselves as potential clients. So it's important. So maybe don't, no more than 20 friend requests a day. No more than 20 friend requests a day. And I did something, I think yesterday, I have like 250 people still on the waiting list to befriend me. And I was sending through the list and I was adding people, but then I didn't realize that I moved from accepting friend requests to actually adding people, and just kept adding and adding and adding and adding. And I added like 50 people. And I'm like, oh my God, but it's me actually inviting people now. What do I do? So I stopped it. So for the last like for the last 24 hours, I've had so many people accepting my requests.
Just be a little bit careful, because it's always better to err on the side of caution than to, like, imagine somebody reaches out to you in Messenger and you got to respond to them. That's like crazy, you know. So you want to, when someone responds, like, you got to be on it. Like, don't leave it like several days and before you get back to them. That's really bad. So yeah, 20 people is kind of where it's at. So don't add more than 20 people a day. I've gotten to the point now, when you reach about 1,000 people on your profile, what Facebook will start doing is it'll start boosting your posts naturally. Oh, you could use stories as well. So, you know, the Facebook stories where you can share stories, you can use that as well to attract people to look at your content. So yeah.
I guess we have quite a few people here that are kind of still not very clear on the niche, and they're still playing around with the right words and such. And let's assume that not everybody has a Facebook group, and you say just having your Facebook profile is enough.
Profile's enough. It's more than enough, actually. Yeah.
I know that a lot of things can go wrong with the profile, and I'm actually gonna host a whole workshop tomorrow. And I actually had a look at people's profiles for my friends and even people that I know. And you know, you see all kinds of wrong pictures and people not really promoting themselves properly through their profile. So what advice do you have? Let's say one doesn't have a Facebook group. Can they actually already start getting clients?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'll share something with you. So even though I did really well with like building my group up to a while, I was actually, this last quarter, my sort of strategic priority was to get my book finished. So I've got a book that's coming out. It's going to be published in October, and I'm working with a publishing consultant. So I had a very tight and very strict deadline. So last 3 months, I've not really touched my group. I know, I think, Rena, you're in there as well. I think you'd requested to be in my group, and I've not even added you yet because I haven't even had a chance to look at it. So for the last 3 months, I've pretty much been doing nothing inside of my group. And I don't really recommend that. I do recommend that you are a lot more, like, I'd say minimum, you should try and aim, if you do have a group, put in content at least weekly. And what if you don't have a group, and by the way, I know lots of people that don't have groups, you can still book calls 100% organically from your profile using exact same methodology that I just shared before, right? But the only difference is that this time you're doing it on your profile as opposed to doing it inside of your group, right? So it's still a very, very powerful thing. Even on my own profile, just in the last 2 weeks, I've booked about 8 calls in the last 2 weeks, purely from my profile, right? So it's like, basically, here's a post where I'm sharing some knowledge, I'm sharing something really cool, you know, go, you know, book a call. If you're interested, drop me a comment below. I'll reach out to you. And then all I do is I reach out to them in Messenger, and I basically say, here's what this is all about. If you're interested, go ahead and book a call. And then I drop a link to my calendar, right? Now, in terms of specific strategies, you want to have a very clear and very compelling value proposition, right? So on my particular Facebook private profile, it says very clearly on there, I help coaches and consultants to basically scale their business with expert positioning and using expert positioning and sales funnels. It's a very clear value proposition. And then underneath that, I've just put down like 8-figure copyright, which kind of explains what I am, if that makes sense. But you want to, in your sort of little mini bio, you want to basically say, I work with, or I help, and then name who your ideal client is, and then what is the result that you get them, right? And how do you actually do it? So that's kind of like the formula, right? So it could, let's say you're a confidence coach, you could, and you only work with, let's say you only work with entrepreneurial women, right? So you could say, I help entrepreneurial women have limitless confidence using my 5-step, you know, confidence program, and give your confidence program a really funky name or something, right? So what you're doing there is you're giving people a very clear indication of who you are, how you help people, and who you help, right? What's the outcome that person is looking for, and then have that front and center on your bio. Second thing is have a professional headshot. That's really important. Please don't put a meme in there or some sort of obscure photo. Like, have a name to a face so people know who you are. They know what that looks like. Third thing is have a really nice Facebook cover. Okay, a Facebook cover really should speak to what is it that you do and how do you help people, right? So for me, on my Facebook cover, I'm actually promoting my group. That's okay. You don't have to have a group. That's really not the problem. I mean, my son, when he was building his profile, I got him to basically put on there, like, what's the tagline that he does is basically more leads, more sales, more money. That's literally what he put on his banner, because what his thing that he was doing was he was helping to generate leads. That's it. It was basically a setter and a closer. So essentially what you want to start thinking about is, aside from like priming your profile, because that process is known as priming your profile, what else can I do to help my potential ideal client? Again, it's with the amazing content, right? So sharing insight, sharing knowledge, sharing testimonials, sharing case studies, knocking over beliefs. That's a really good one, right? So if anyone's got false beliefs, let's say you do coaching and someone has your ideal client has a false belief about coaching as a modality, you could knock that over in one of your posts. Leadership posts are really good, right? So leadership posts is basically where you're taking a stand on something, right? I did this post. It was quite funny actually, this one that I did, why Russell Brunson is wrong. Right, because in my industry, Russell Brunson is like a major influence, and by the way, I have an immense amount of respect for his work, but I fundamentally disagreed when he was talking about, you're one funnel away, and I was like, no, you're not. Like, that's so irresponsible to say that. It sounds really, really great. Oh, you're one funnel away, but actually the truth of the matter is, me being someone who works with funnels all the time, day in, day out, I know how much work goes behind it. And someone who's trying to do it on their own, 9 times out of 10, they're going to fail, right? Because, they got the messaging wrong, or they got the offer wrong, or they got the ideal client wrong, or, it wasn't written in a way that was compelling to their initial audience. So, and there's a lot of things that can potentially go wrong with that kind of stuff. So that's what I talked about in my post. And oh, did that get a few people rattled? It really did. There were people who were like, yeah, I'm so glad someone said it finally. And there were other people who were like, no, you're completely wrong. I don't agree with you. I think, Russell's the person, and blah, 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 blah. But the thing is, it was my take. So it's a leadership stance, right? So I'm taking a stance and I'm saying, this is what I stand for. And here's my take on why I don't think this is true. Right. And then offering, it's not about rubbishing someone's idea, but it's about inviting a discussion. And that's what I was doing on that post. I was inviting people to discuss. And then other types of posts, like pure engagement posts. These are posts where you ask people, like you can poll them, or you can ask them like a silly question. So one of the questions that I posted up was, what are some of your top marketing strategies? And then I put in brackets, wrong answers only, with a wink. And I had about like 70, 80 people responded to that post, which was insane, right? And that was like really cool, because it's good for engagement. So sometimes if you're like, oh, I don't really know what to share today, it could be an engagement post like that. And then the other type of post is, it's the common enemy, right? Who's the common enemy for your ideal client? What does that look like for your ideal client? And then like just eliminating that, or talking about it, or basically offering an alternative viewpoint, right? So that people can see that it's like, oh, she's on our side, right? This person is on our side, right? So I've seen this done very successfully, especially in things like weight loss and whatnot, where almost people are let off the hook. Sugar is the enemy, here's why, right? Fat is not the enemy, here's why, right? So you're talking, you're educating people around something that, they kind of almost know in their heart to be true, but they're almost like afraid to say it, or they're worried about it, and that's something that's really on their mind, and you're sort of bringing you're basically bringing awareness to that. So yeah, lots of different types of content, but the main thing is engage with the posts. Every person who everyone who engages with your post, make sure you are engaging back with them, right? And if your posts are really good, you can basically make an offer in every single post. And your offer really should not be about money or anything like that, but it really should be, go book a call with me, or drop me a comment, drop me this word, whatever that word is for you. Like in one of my posts, I was like, drop scaling in the comments below and I'm going to reach out to you. So, and then let's chat. Right. And I make it very clear who the offer is for and who the offer is not for. And then all I do is anyone who is basically interested, I go and reach out to them in Messenger, and we start a conversation. I get them to book a call. We jump on a call, and then essentially we just take it from there. Right. So lots to think about, but everyone can do that. There's no one here on this call today that can't do that. Everyone can do it.
You have spoken a lot to us about the things that you are doing, and I'm sure you also have a keen eye for what other people are doing. What are some of the mistakes that you see, especially coaches, make when they try to promote their content? So okay. What are the mistakes that make you cringe every time you see it?
So that's actually a really great question. So one of the worst mistakes that you can make is just constantly talking about yourself. That's a no-no, right? What I want you to start thinking about is, what is the thing that my ideal client wants? It's okay every now and again to put content out there that talks about you. So for example, if you're sharing your personal story, obviously that has to be about you. But what I have seen people doing is either they just all about them and not enough about the client, or what they do is they're too aggressive in their sales approach. And what I mean by that is they'll book the calls, but then they can't convert people. And when I have like a conversation with them, the number one thing that I'm hearing is, yeah, I'm getting these people on the calls, but the problem is that that they're just not buying. And I'm like, and when I do a little bit more digging, it's because they're either coming across as being too desperate or too needy, or they're pushing people. And the thing is, the way that I look at sales, I have the world's simplest pitch. I don't use any kind of script or anything like that. My pitch is literally a handful of words, and to this day, it has never failed me. And it's essentially, I share strategies. And then when we get to the end of the call, I'm like, did you find this helpful? And what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for excitement, right? And if the person is excited, like, oh yeah, this was amazing, this was like so good. Then the next question is, would you like help implementing it? And that is pretty much my pitch. That's it, right? Because what that's doing is it's giving people, it almost like helps them feel relieved that you're not like pitching this hardcore program to them. When they say yes, that's your cue to start talking about your program. And then all I do at the end of that is that there's no hard pitch here. I make an invitation for them to want to continue with me. So all I say is like, how does that sound? And if they say this sounds really good, but they're not saying anything further, I'll just say, okay, great. Would you like to get started? That's it. And if they say, yeah, good, then you can start, then you can sort of start the process of enrollment. And if they say no, then that's okay. Just talk through what are their fears, what are the questions around that, do they have any objections? So that's kind of like the sales part of it. Another common problem that I see with coaches is they're too vague. This one, by the way, is an absolute killer. I did yesterday, I did a teardown of a website. And this was basically a therapist, and what this person had done was, it was so vague. Like, I went on there and I'm like, I don't even know what it is that you do. And there was literally about 20 different things that she was offering on there. And because she was not specific enough, the message was coming across as being very wishy-washy. And there was just zero emotional connection. So I basically showed her how to rewrite that in a way that actually speaks to the ideal client, right? So getting clear on your ideal client is probably and not being clear on it actually is probably the number one mistake that people make as a coach or as a consultant. You got to remember that, people are going to come to you if they think that you can help them solve a problem, right? If you are very vague in what you do, or are vague in the kind of people that you help, guess what? You're gonna attract fluffy clients, right? You want to attract clients who value what you do, who understand what you do, and who basically are excited to work with you. What you don't want is, you don't want a bunch of tire kickers, right? So this brings me on to the next mistake that I see people making, which is not qualifying people, right? So for example, on my post, when I write the post, I'm very clear about who the offer is for and who the offer is not for. Right. So I will say, this is not for startups. You've got to be doing at least 6 figures in order for me to have a chat with you. Right. If you're not at that level and you don't have a proven offer, we're not a good fit, there's no point in booking a call. Like, I make that so explicit. As a result, I get fewer calls booked, but those calls are always really high quality. Right. So one person that I actually so when I had a chat with this person on Facebook, this client has ended up becoming what you would call a 6-figure client, right? Insane, because the amount of work that needs to be done on their system. So they were already at 7 figures, and by the end, within 12 months, we will have taken them very easily to 8 figures. And that, how did that happen? It was a simple conversation that was started inside of basically from a call, right? We got on a call, I talked strategy, and my simple offer was, do you want to help implementing this? Yeah, that sounds amazing. How can we get this in our own business? We've got 0 systems in place. And that's where we started the conversation. So essentially what you're doing is you're looking at qualifying people, so you get the right people on board and you're talking to the right people. You're not wasting your time talking to the wrong people.
Wow, this is very powerful. I'm getting goosebumps. This is incredible. Thank you for sharing. I do agree with you. And I guess really nailing down the niche, and then the next one, really choosing what clients we want to work with, is key. I've gone through that exercise myself yesterday and today, and it was very, very powerful.
Yes.
When I finally decided who I want to work with. And you are an award-winning copywriter.
Yes.
And many coaches, they're really not good at copywriting, including myself. In fact, I had a conversation with someone, and she said when she met me, I had the conversation Monday, when she met me in person, I'm nothing like she imagined me just from my posts. And I'm like, I'm good at writing, I'm good at this. So that's what I bet on, right? And I never probably will become an excellent copywriter, because you're a copywriter. It makes sense for you to showcase your skill by copywriting. In my case, I'm a good talker and I love talking. So this is where I position myself. But for somebody who's a beginning coach, and at what point in their journey would you recommend they probably invest in some sort of a copywriting coach or some sort of help to really up the game?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a really great question, and you're going to hate the answer that I'm going to give you. It really does vary, and it really does depend on the person. I actually copy coach for there is a very famous internet marketer. It's called Shakir Hussain, and he's very well known in the internet marketing world. And I copy coach for his elite mastermind clients, and those clients, these are people who paid like 10K to be on his program, and they don't know how to write copy. And some of the people who are on there, so there's a doctor who's on there who's never written a word of copy in her life, and she's completely new to the whole, getting clients through social media type of thing. And so what I would say is, it's really dependent upon you. You got to weigh up that as a business owner, where is your time best spent? And by the way, whether you are a total beginner or whether you are more advanced, even if you are not writing the copy yourself, you do need to understand what are the fundamentals of good copy, right? And actually, there's loads of videos on YouTube that you can have a look for that. Some of the books that I recommend is, what's it called? Ray Edwards' book. Hang on, let me just find out which one is it. I forget the title. I got Ray Edwards copywriting book. Hold on. So embarrassing, I should know that. Oh yeah, How to Write Copy That Sells. It was on the tip of my tongue, right? That's a brilliant book to start with, right? How to Write Copy That Sells by Ray Edwards. You can get that on Amazon. It's absolutely fantastic because it's a very beginner and user friendly. Okay, so that one, if you're going to start anywhere, start with that. And I would recommend, by and large, there are formulas that you can use. And even if you're not a good copywriter, you got to remember one thing: people buy on emotion and they justify with logic, right? That basically means that all buying decisions are done from the emotional part of the brain, okay? So the way to basically speak to your ideal customer is to speak to the emotions. Now, if you're a weight loss coach, for example, okay, yeah, it's nice to see the numbers on your scale going down, but you know what's even better is the fact that you're going to feel fabulous in your own skin. You're going to look sexy in skinny jeans, you know, you're going to be able to rock that dress with confidence, right? That is emotional. That's pure emotion speaking right there. So how I want you to think about it is, what can I say to my potential clients that are going to get them interested in working with me, and how do I write it in a way that sounds compelling? And that's how you do it, by speaking to their innate desire. Now, if you are really confused on that, one of the exercises I always tell people to do is go into Facebook groups where your ideal client hangs out and they're struggling with the problem that you help to solve, and look at what kind of language they're using, and then grab that language and use it in your actual posts, okay? Specifically focusing on the emotions, focus on what are the pain points that they're struggling with, right? What are their day-to-day frustrations? What are their motivations? What are their desires? What are their dreams? What do they want? What do they want to avoid? What does hell look like for them? What does heaven look like for them? Okay. And your job as a business owner is to articulate that transformation. Okay. So let's say you're working with, let's say, corporate women who are struggling with burnout, right? And they've really lost their edge. Okay. You would say something like, you know, hey, you know, if you're a corporate woman, you know, if you're a woman who's working in corporate and you're stressed out, you're burned out, you have a very poor work-life balance, if you feel like you've got your, pardon my language, shit together in work, but your personal life is falling apart, I can help, right? And then talking about how you help and what does transformation look like on the other end of that, right? So transformation is going to look like, you know, you've got your mojo back, right? You feel empowered, you feel energized, you've got better work-life balance, right? You're thriving in your relationships. You're not feeling resentful and irritable all the time, right? You're not feeling as if you're constantly having to live up to a certain expectation or up to a certain standard. That's the type of stuff that you need to be talking about. That's the type of stuff that is going to move someone from, hey, I'm just thinking about it, to, oh my God, I need to work with this person, right? So that's the type of approach that you want to take to copy. Now, in terms of like frameworks, I'll give you a couple of, well, my first and foremost, my most famous framework that I think all of you can start using this from today, is the Puzz Formula, right? So problem, agitate, solution. In other words, what is the problem that they're struggling with? Okay. What happens if they're not solving the problem? So in other words, agitate the problem. Okay. So what does it look like if they can't solve their problem? Where else is it impacting them in their life? What does that look like? What does it feel like? Okay. And then what's the solution? How can you help them? What's the transformation? What's the result that they're going to get on the end? And then all you need to do on the end of that is just have like a call to action. So like, you know, if you want to have limitless confidence, if you want to kick procrastination and low self-confidence to the curb, and you want to have, you know, you want to feel energized, you want to have high self-worth, high self-esteem, you want to just go for it, you want to feel empowered to be able to, you know, live the best years of your life, go book a call with me now. Right. And, you know, details are below, blah, 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 blah. Right. So that's basically how you want to start approaching it. But do check out that book because it's a fabulous book. Fabulous book.
Wow. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing this, and definitely investing in probably educating us around copywriting might be a good idea. So I would assume your advice would be, before we start with any funnels, or even thinking about funnels, really mastering perhaps a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. By the way, there's a ton of free training inside of my group, and there's a whole video. Yeah. There's a whole video inside of my group called Copywriting 101. So how to write words that sell. That's like literally a total crash course in about, I think it's less than 60 minutes long, on how to write copy, Now it's not going to, caveat to that, it's not going to turn you into a world-class copywriter, let's be real. But what it will do is it's going to show you how and what those elements are, what do they look like, and how to do them in a powerful way, so that you can attract the right attention. So you're really hooking people into your world. So it's definitely going to help you with that.
We have a question here in the chat. What are your thoughts on Facebook business pages?
That's in a nutshell. Look, the only reason why you actually need a Facebook business page, two things, right? So you definitely need it if you're going to run ads, okay? But to be honest with you, the only other reason why you would have that is probably in place of a website, okay? You do not need a Facebook business page. You really, really don't. Your private profile is enough. Also, Facebook does not optimize for business pages. They really don't, okay? Reason being because they don't want you to connect with a nameless, faceless organization, which, let's face it, most businesses are, okay? Instead, what they want is they want to connect you to a real person, a real human, hence the name Facebook. So, and actually that's a tip, by the way. So when you're doing your content and you're putting it inside of your, when you're putting it on your private profile, use an image of yourself, like put your face on it, and Facebook, the Facebook algorithm will optimize for your face, which sounds like crazy, but that's just how it works. But business pages have a very limited reach. Only about between 2 and 5% of the people that will ever join your Facebook page will ever see your posts. There's literally zero reach there. No point.
It seconds my opinion too. So I keep getting asked as well, Facebook group, Facebook page, or Facebook group, or Facebook profile, which one to choose, how to start.
Start with your profile, always. Yeah, always start with your profile. And when you've got the confidence, and especially when you've got the expertise as well. So if you're brand new, you're still building your business, right? That is not the time for you to have a group. That's the wrong time to have a group. What you want to do is you want to start getting at least, I would say probably around 5 to 10 clients that you've almost proven that your offer works. When you got a proven offer and you can consistently get people really great results, then you can start looking at, okay, I think I'm ready to start a group now. But even then, honestly, you really don't need one. Like someone like myself who I mean, I've got 11 years experience in doing what I'm doing. Like I said, I've just written a book as well. For someone like myself who's looking for scale, the group absolutely 110% makes sense. So for me, it's a good investment. And by the way, I only started my group last year. So even I know the power of a group, I didn't start it until last year because it was the right time for me to start a group. When you are starting out, literally your profile is virtually all you need.
Excellent. If anybody has any additional questions for Arfa, drop them in the chat. I have just dropped in the chat, and I will add it also to our Facebook Live friends who are watching us. I will add the link to Arfa's website, and again the link to Arfa's Facebook group. I'm not sure if they're yet ideal clients, but at least we can be ideal fans.
Well, look, like I said, there's loads of training inside of my group. And actually, one thing that might help everyone, aside from the copywriting training, there's a couple of trainings in there which specifically will help you get a lot clearer on you as an expert. So I did a 5-day challenge, and it was a double your conversion rate challenge inside of my group. That's totally free. It's 5 days. And I've had amazing feedback off the back of that. I had one lady who went through it and she was like, oh my God, this is like a Netflix for coaches kind of thing. And she absolutely loved it. And she literally watched every single training inside of my group. And she said it was insanely helpful. I do things like tear downs. So someone's like, oh, can you have a look at my website? Can you tell me what's wrong with my website? And what I'll do is I'll just jump on a live and I will literally break the website down and I will say, okay, this needs changing, that needs changing, this is not right, this is really wrong, and this is what you need to be doing instead. And people find that really, really helpful, and there's no reason why you couldn't do something similar. So yeah, just start thinking outside the box a little as well with your content.
Excellent. For those who are asking about the links, so there are also links within the event page itself. So just go to the event that I've created and you'll find Arfa's details there as well. And how do you manage the non-business side of your profile then? I don't want to give up my personal posts that I shared with friends. I share business-related ones with public setting.
Okay, yeah, so that's actually a really great question. What you can do is, for those people who are just your friends, you can actually just choose to share your post to your closest friends. And that's like a little setting. So it's just like I think it's like the 3 dots. If you click on there when you're doing your actual share, you've got share settings on there. So you can share it only to yourself. You can share it to your closest friends, or you can share it as like public. So you can choose who sees what, and therefore you've got a little bit more control over if you don't want family seeing your business related posts, you can actually choose to exclude them from showing that content as well.
I guess one closing question that I have, and I would like to run this by a copywriter. Facebook group name. How did you go about kind of like niching down and really choosing the right words for, because I always teach that actually your Facebook group is the best lead magnet you can have after a certain tipping point. When you reach a certain number of people, it starts popping up in people's searches, and if there is enough engagement, then definitely, and people who join. So what advice would you have for someone who is starting?
So I want you to start focusing on the outcome that you have for people, and stuff that is searchable. So somebody that I know is a best-selling author. He had a group called Fearless, was it Fearless Coaching or something like that, and it didn't really mean anything to people. So it wasn't really a word that people were looking for. Then he changed it to Confidently Charge More, and all of a sudden his Facebook group just exploded overnight. Literally within the space of a few weeks, he grew that group. I can't remember how many people he added in total, but it was a lot. Right, so he's now got quite a lot of people inside of that group. So what I want you to think about is, what are the search terms that people are potentially looking for? So with mine is called high ticket consulting. Now, if you typed in high ticket coach, high ticket consulting, high ticket marketing, or any sort of combination of that, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to appear number 1 in the search results. And that was very deliberate, right? So it's about finding the words that people really connect with. And there's 2 elements to that. So my it's quite a long name for my group. So the high ticket coaching bit, that's what people are looking for. But then what I put was marketing and sales insights into 7-figure businesses. So I'm explaining what they're going to get inside of the group, right? In other words, it does what it says on the tin, right? So I have a friend of mine. She's a parenting coach, and she called it, she gave it it was something parent. What did she call it? She called it something along the lines of sanity parent. That was it, sanity parenting or something. And then her description was something like peaceful strategies for confident parenting, something like that. I can't remember the exact words now. It was something along the lines of that. And that's the thing that people are looking for. So I want you to start thinking about, what's the outcome that people actually want? What are the names that people are actually searching for? And then how can I sort of translate that into something like, what's the actual outcome that people want? And that's how I would do it. There's a really good group called Clients and Community. And that's a brilliant group, by the way. Anything like a Facebook group related. It's called Clients and Community, Strategies on Daily Customer Acquisition, something like that, using your Facebook group. So if you put in Clients and Community, it should pop up right at the top. Great Facebook group if anyone wants more info on how to grow their group and how to do it properly. I would say that'd be a brilliant resource to actually go to. But yeah, I mean, just think about what's the outcome that you want, what's the transformation that you want, and then just kind of keep it with that, keeping in line with that, then you can name it as such.
Again, one more question here is, if you have a Facebook group but is not getting much engagement and you are early in your business, would you delete it, stop posting it, or continue posting?
So there's going to be a combination of things that you can do actually to try and increase the engagement. So one of the things that you can do is you can promote a free training that you're going to hold inside of your group. and you can push and promote that on your private profile. But guess what? They have to join your group in order to access the training. Right. So that's one really good way. I mean, I did interviews, by the way, are really good for this because they are very engaging and they're easy to do. So like this is an example of an interview, right? So I had a good friend of mine who he's at the time when I interviewed him, he'd just done over 700 million in sales for his clients as a copywriter. And his secret weapon is storytelling. And I was like, I need to get him inside of my group, right? So what I did was I promoted this on my private profile saying, who else wants to learn storytelling secrets from a $700 million copywriter? Comment below. And I had like literally that thread just blew up. And I put a couple of other posts out as well. And like, I think over the space of about a week or so, we had like, was it nearly 70 people joined my group just to watch that interview, which was insane. So that kind of stuff. And even people who were like dormant members of the community, even they were like commenting on that particular interview because it was a fabulous interview. So yeah, so think about what kind of value can I add where people want to get engaged, right? And I want you to start thinking, again, think outside the box. I have a coach, he's a client of mine, and he's a time management coach. One of the things that I told him to do was to do time audits. I said, just do a time audit inside of your group. So put up a post saying, hey, I'm going to audit somebody's calendar. I'm going to audit someone's time. If you're interested, drop me a comment below. Who doesn't like free strategy? Who doesn't like free help? And so that is a really good way of getting people interested. You could be offering like a free strategy session and say, hey, like comment below if you're interested in a free strategy session. We're going to hold it live inside of the group. So you're getting people onto a call that everyone else can watch, and you're giving them strategy. And so this does several amazing things. Number one, people get an instant transformation. The person who's on that call with you is going to have that instant transformation. But the second thing is, and this is the thing that I really love, other people are watching that thinking, wow, this person is so good. I want to go book a call with them, right? So find ways of being relevant, find ways of being interesting and exciting, and get people engaged, right? And you can also do things like individually reaching out to every single person inside of the group. This is another strategy. So if people are a bit like, they're not really engaging, just reach out to say, hey, I know you're inside of my group. Haven't heard from you in a while. Just wanted to know, I'm looking at doing some free trainings inside of my group over the next coming weeks. Just wanted to get your thoughts and your input as to what you would like to see in there, right? And start a conversation with them, right? And then just make a list of all of the different ideas that they've got, and then start delivering that, right? And when you've done that, tag them in the training, right? If somebody has given you an idea and then you go and implement the idea, guess what? It's going to make that person feel special. They are going to watch that training, whether, even if they don't watch any other training, they're going to watch that training because it was their idea, right? So people like to have ownership of their own ideas. So that's a really, really good tactic that you can potentially try as well.
Besides, let me see who asked this, Beth. Besides, just because you're new to the business and the group is not working yet, it's a process, and your niche is going to change, and the tagline is going to change, and things are going to change, and maybe the group you want to work with is going to change. So if it's already there, and it's not asking you for money for anything, it's free. So why not leaving it there? And once you get better ideas, you can return. Like in our case, for instance, I ran already two trainings on Facebook. You might want to get those trainings as well, where you can learn how to grow the group and how to engage members. And the beauty about Facebook groups, I love that you can actually schedule posts. So you can plan actually 2 months in advance. And like in our case, we have recurring posts on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Friday and Saturday. So we schedule it all in advance. And so it's a no-brainer, and the stuff goes out and people engage with it. But I think the most engagement we've always gotten from lives, from free workshops, from laser coachings. You might consider actually offering free laser coachings as well. I would say most people are actually really shy about going live and being on Facebook and such. But I think you might find a few friends that want to play with you, and you might want to coach,
of course.
showcase your experience?
Just find different ways of doing it. I mean, the teardowns that I've done inside of my group have resulted in clients. So I had this, I put this post up once saying, hey, I'm doing a website teardowns tomorrow. Drop your website below, first come, first served only. And somebody put on there, like literally dropped me about 3 messages saying, help, I really badly need help with my website, please. My messaging is all over the place. Anyway, I kind of felt sorry for him, and I did a teardown of his website, and it took him about 20 minutes to tear his entire website down. And you know what he did? He watched the whole thing, and I think he watched it about 3 times, and then he reached out to me and he went, I don't know who you are. I don't even know how I got into your group, but I want to work with you. Come have a chat. And he did, and he hired me. So that was like amazing. So, and then when we got on the call, he said, what attracted me to you, even though I'd never met you before, never seen you before, I don't even know how I got in your group, right? Is the fact that you literally called me out on my BS. That's what he said to me, and I was laughing so much. And he goes, and I like it. I like people telling me what I'm doing wrong. Like, if you've got the guts to tell me what I'm doing wrong, I want to work with you. And I was like, wow. So, you just don't know where those clients are going to come from. But think differently. Like, how can you add a value? Doesn't always have to be a training. So that's very important to understand. Like, if you're if you do something like confidence, right, you can do things like getting somebody on a call and sort of maybe looking at self-sabotaging behaviors with that person and discussing it as like an interview style, right? You can get other experts in. If you're not, like, if you don't feel confident, especially when you're brand new, the problem that most people, especially when they're brand new, is they really struggle with content, right? Because they're new, they don't really have the experience yet. But actually, the best way to create the content, go and interview other people. Right early in my career, I still remember this, and the thing that I feel like kicking myself more than anything, I joined this like radio network, and I basically subscribed to this radio thing. This was well before podcasts were even a thing, and I signed up, and I can't remember how much I paid, and basically it was my responsibility to get different guests on to interview. And one of my guests was like the godfather of direct response marketing. Like, he's such a big deal. And a friend of mine introduced me to him, and I interviewed him how to sell anything to anyone. Oh, what an interview. I feel so upset that I don't still have a copy of that, because once I left the radio show, that was it. Like, they deleted all of my recordings, but I didn't have a recording of that. But that was insane. I got a lot of clients off the back of that, because it was building my authority. Like, he's the authority figure, but I'm interviewing him. It was building my authority. So that was amazing. So yeah, I mean, think about how can I add value, even if I've not got a ton of experience. You can still go interview people, right? Interview other experts, interview people who are in alignment with you. If you can't get people to play along with you, go and find experts. You can use something like Help a Reporter Out. It's called Harrow. So Help a Reporter Out, and you can put a request in saying, hey, look, I'm looking at interviewing experts on the following topics. Drop me a note if you're interested, and you'll find people just from that. That's how, by the way, that's how I found quite a lot of the experts that I spoke to. Also networking, traditional networking, right? So when you're networking, think about expanding your network, not just in a one-to-one setting, but also like even online. You'd be surprised at how many people just will be willing to connect you with the right person if you build that relationship with them first, right? And then go and interview those people, right? Amazing content, and you didn't have to do any thinking behind it, right? So that's how I would think of it. And you can even invite people to curate content as well. That's another thing that you can potentially do. If you think about Oprah, okay, she is one of the world's highest paid TV presenters. Like, I think she is the #1 highest paid TV presenter on the planet. She doesn't create any content. All she does is like interview people and gets other people to come and share their story. That's it. She's just the host. So think about other ways of sharing sharing content.
If one observation that I might share, earlier this week, I was in this highly paid coaches group, and she has over 15,000 members. And she goes live all the time. And then I started scrolling and I see 1 like, 2 likes, 1 comment, 5 likes, nothing, 20 comments. And I was thinking, well, you have 15,000 members, but actually engagement on her likes is very, very little.
Terrible, yeah.
And that's the thing, you know, I'm not a big fan of lives. I'm a bigger fan of events, because people really know what you're going to be talking about. There's a time. And I call it like the Queen Bee syndrome, where talking kind of down on people. But anyways, and yesterday I was talking to someone, and he has a Facebook group, and he has about 150 people there. And I kind of like said, oh, your group is very tiny. But then he started telling me that he's making 5 figures on that group from 6 clients, even if it's small. And I don't know how much engagement he has, but I didn't really scroll down. But that's the thing, you know, if you position yourself right, and maybe you talk to 20 people in your group all the time, eventually that will bear you fruits, more fruits than growing like crazy.
Again, this is going to come down to who your ideal client is, right? So I always want everyone to be mindful who is your ideal client, always, right? The clearer you get on who your ideal client is and how you can help them, how you serve them, guess what? The higher the quality of people that are going to be inside of your group, and the more invested they're going to be in you. But you do have to put a lot in. Now, when the pandemic hit, and I'd already started my group at this point, and what I did was I started off by adding those people in my immediate network who are professionals. And I actually started by adding my clients first, then my professional friends, the ones who I knew were interested in what I was doing. And within the first week, I had 70 people just like that, right? But then it was a case of, okay, well, how do I actually build this up? How do I actually build this up, right? And so one of the ways in which I did that was like, I was asking people, what do you want me to talk about inside of this group? Right? What do you actually want me to talk about inside of this group, right? And listening to people, building relationships with people, right? And talking to people on a one-on-one level. And you know what? There's no substitute for that personal connection. That's the whole point of a group. And when you got a group, you can do that, right? So it's about really setting yourself up for success in the right way by ensuring that you keep the quality of your group super duper high. I remember again, so at the start of the lockdown, because I knew that people were closing their businesses down, guess what I did? And I knew that people were not doing marketing and they were really struggling. They didn't have the budget for the marketing. I did 35 days straight. I did daily content inside of my group, and I called that series Build a Bulletproof Business on Lockdown series, right? And would you believe it? That series in and of itself, initially I made about 16,000 off that series. And then because I was then reusing that material, I made a further, I think it was about 30 odd K after that, right? But that's what kickstarted the process. I put just one post up inside of my group, and I got 13 calls booked off that one post. It was insane. And I was like, wow. And 2 people bought from me. One person paid 10K. The other person paid 5. And sorry, 3 people. And then another person paid 1. Right. So I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Right. So again, you know, it really comes down to, like, if you nurture your group properly and you're doing it to the right group of people, yes, it's going to pay you back in bucket loads, but you do have to be consistent.
I know we're way over time, but this was awesome, and I'm so glad you stayed on with us and shared more. Any final closing comments?
You can do this. That's my final comment. You can do this. I'm telling you. Don't be shy to get started. I had someone on a coaching call this morning. I'm actually coaching Marissa Pearce students at the moment, and I'm actually taking them through, like, you know, all the marketing processes. And one of them, she actually said, I got out of my own way and I finally put up a post, and I really praised her and I really congratulated her, because for her that was a really big undertaking. You know, sometimes, you know, there's that bit of imposter syndrome can sometimes creep in, like, who am I to be sharing content? You know, I'm not good enough, you know, maybe my knowledge isn't good enough. But you only have to know more than the person that you're trying to help. That's it. If they know more than you can't help them. It's as simple as that, right? You only need to know a little bit more than what they know. And as long as you always maintain that, this is why I'm a big fan of professional development, right? I always think, as you know, you're not just coaches, you are also business owners. Make yourself a better business owner, right? Teach yourself the skills that are going to enable you to become an amazing CEO of your own business. You know, that's a very, very different skill than being a coach, right? Very different skill. You know, being a coach is about helping other people, but being a CEO is about helping yourself. You're in business to make a profit, and that's what you should be doing, right? So it pays, the more you invest in yourself, the more it's going to pay back in spades. So that's kind of like my final thoughts.
Excellent. I had one more thought about the VA. You said you actually engage a VA, and I know on LinkedIn and such, they're very, they really don't like it. And I assume on Facebook you can get away with it. So what has been your experience so far actually having a VA kind of managing your account, who still has not moved to the group?
So basically, what I would say is I don't have a VA anymore. So I ended up, so my VA ended up moving on after about working with me for about 2 years. But what I did was I gave my VA my personal login details, right? And essentially what they were doing is they weren't going in as somebody else. They were pretending to be me. That's what they were doing. So that's the way to do it, and that's the way around it. By the way, the very first post I ever shared, so just to show that what's possible, the very first post I ever shared was in the ClickFunnels group, and it was 5 tips on how to sell more from your email. That's all I did. Now, the rules have changed inside of that group. You're not allowed to self-promote anymore. But all I did at the end of that post was I put on the end of the post, use these 5 tips, you'll definitely make more money. But if you want more, you want a deeper explanation of these tips, I've got a free PDF. Let me know in the comments below if you want it. 65 people requested the PDF. Out of those 65 people, which I started a conversation with, I think 13 or 14 booked a call with me. Quite a few ghosted me. That's fully to be expected. And I think I made about £2,000 out of that initial one post. That was the first time I ever did it. I was so scared. I won't even lie to you. I was really scared. I was like, I can't do it. Oh, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Definitely. So as long as you're adding value and people are getting that value, of course, 100% you can do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who's been watching on Facebook Live. Have a good day and see you next week. We have more amazing speakers coming up.